What if the biggest economic event of your lifetime has already begun, but no one told you? On January 7th, a quiet signal rippled through financial markets, so subtle that most people missed it entirely. No headlines, no emergency press conferences, no panic. And yet, behind closed doors, the architecture of money itself is being redesigned. Central banks are speaking in coded language. Debt numbers are exploding past the point of logic. Currencies are weakening, not by accident, but by design. This isn't a collapse in the way movies show it. It's something far more controlled, far more deliberate. Because history shows us something disturbing. Every major monetary reset is invisible until it's irreversible, and standing quietly at the center of this shift, ignored, underestimated, and deliberately suppressed, is silver. In this video, we are not guessing. We are connecting the dots. The elite's blueprint for 2026, the debt trap that can't be escaped, the currency signal's screaming warnings, and why silver may play a role few are prepared for. Watch closely, because by the time this becomes obvious, it will already be too late. The elite's 2026 monetary blueprint. The world believes that money evolves naturally through markets, innovation, democracy. Every major monetary revolution was engineered, controlled, and orchestrated, not random. The gold confiscation of 1933, the creation of the Bretton Woods system in 1944, the removal of the gold standard in 1971. Each time, the public believed it was a natural shift. But it was never natural. It was designed. And now, in early 2026, the same pattern is quietly repeating. Segment 1, the January 7th signal. January 7th, 2026. A day that looks ordinary on the surface, but beneath the calm, something seismic happened. No headlines screamed it, no emergency press conferences, no market chaos. Yet, a subtle signal passed through global financial systems. Despite record-breaking global debt, slowing economic growth, banking systems teetering under unseen pressure, central banks projected an almost eerie calm. That calm is the tell. When institutions controlling trillions of dollars act calm during extreme instability, it rarely signals stability. It signals that the decision has already been made, and that decision involves a complete rethinking of money itself. Segment 2, the blueprint unfolds. The elite's blueprint is not about if the system changes, but how. Step 1, debt orchestration. Step 2, currency engineering. Step 3, strategic asset control. It's subtle, it's invisible. It's a plan executed in whispers, behind closed doors and through mechanisms the public rarely sees. Central banks have been carefully planting the language of transition. Long-term structural adjustments, orderly transitions, new frameworks for stability, resilience over growth. These aren't economic buzzwords. They are coded messages. They tell insiders, prepare for change. The framework is set. Execution begins soon. Segment 3, historical parallels. History gives us a roadmap. 1930s. Gold confiscation followed economic turmoil. Citizens lost control over assets, but the elite orchestrated the move quietly. 1940s. Bretton Woods created a new global reserve system under controlled parameters. It looked stable, but it was carefully engineered. 1971. The US removed gold backing from the dollar. Chaos? Not exactly. Planning? Absolutely. Each time, the average person reacted too late. And now, history appears to be repeating, with one crucial difference. Modern technology, global interconnectivity, and digital currencies make the next shift faster, deeper, and more controlled. Segment 4, why this matters now. If you're watching this, understand, this isn't hypothetical. Global debt levels are higher than at any point in modern history. Major economies cannot sustain existing interest rates without triggering systemic failure. Currency volatility is rising quietly, almost imperceptibly, across markets. The public sees numbers. The elite sees mechanisms. This blueprint is already in motion. And when executed, it will reshape wealth control and access to money on a global scale. And at the very center of this blueprint, quietly, deliberately, sits silver. Central banking's stealth moves. Opening shot, nighttime aerial of a central bank building, lights glowing, slow zoom into the main entrance. Suspenseful low music. Opening narration. Central banks are the silent architects of the financial world. You rarely see their moves. You rarely hear their plans. Yet, their influence shapes everything. Interest rates, currencies, debt, even the price of gold and silver. And in early 2026, their moves are more deliberate than ever. Not chaos, not panic, stealth, precision, control. Segment 1, interest rates, the illusion of control. Interest rates are the most visible tool central banks have. On the surface, raising rates is meant to curb inflation. But today's reality is different. Debt levels are historically high. Economies are fragile. Markets cannot withstand aggressive rate hikes without systemic stress. So why raise rates at all? Because appearance matters. Raising rates sends a signal, we are in control. It reassures bondholders, investors, and international markets. But here's the hidden truth. The system cannot survive high rates. Governments cannot service debt. Corporations cannot refinance loans. Consumers cannot maintain borrowing power. So central banks act in a delicate dance. Raise rates to signal control. Pause to avoid collapse. signal potential reversals to stabilize markets. This is not indecision, it's calculated rehearsal. Segment 2, quantitative tightening that isn't tight. Quantitative easing, QE, and quantitative tightening, QT, are often misunderstood. Central banks claim to shrink balance sheets, reduce liquidity, or cool the economy. But in practice, the money never truly disappears. It moves off balance sheet. It circulates through shadow banking systems. It becomes hidden guarantees and emergency swap lines. Think of it like this. They aren't draining water from the system, they're redirecting it. The goal? Maintain the illusion of control while quietly steering the system toward a predetermined outcome. Segment 3, preparing for a new reserve currency. The ultimate goal of central banks isn't just domestic stability. It's positioning for a global monetary pivot. A reserve currency must be trusted by governments and markets, scarce or finite in supply, politically neutral. Fiat currencies fail on all three counts. So what are central banks doing? Increasing gold exposure, exploring commodity-linked frameworks, testing multi-asset settlement systems. And in this framework, silver is quietly integrated. Industrial demand ensures value retention. Historical monetary use adds credibility. Physical scarcity prevents manipulation. Silver doesn't headline the news, but it anchors the transition. Segment 4, historical parallels of stealth moves. History shows a pattern. 1930s. The Federal Reserve quietly expanded credit while public debt increased. Panic was delayed, giving elites time to restructure. 1970s. Post-gold standard, central banks adjusted currencies subtly to maintain market faith while real value eroded. 2008. Quantitative easing was framed as temporary, but balance sheets remain massive today. The lesson? The public never sees the full scope until it's too late. Central banks act behind the curtain, making subtle adjustments, steering debt, and shaping liquidity, all while markets and citizens believe nothing is happening. Segment 5, the quiet mechanics of control. Here's how the elite engineer stability amid chaos. Interest rate. Signaling controlled adjustments to influence investor behavior without triggering collapse. Hidden liquidity. Off-balance sheet reserves, swap lines, and emergency funds stabilize markets quietly. Currency alignment. Coordinated moves across nations prevent sudden collapses, but lay groundwork for a reset. Asset anchoring. Strategic metals like silver and gold are quietly accumulated as insurance and leverage. In essence, they are rehearsing the next system in plain sight. Segment 6, what this means for you. The surface may look calm, markets may fluctuate, reports may reassure the public, but the hidden mechanics tell a different story. The elite are preparing for a major shift. Interest rate moves are rehearsals, not solutions. Liquidity flows are being redirected to control the outcome. Silver is quietly positioned to absorb shocks and anchor value. If history is any guide, those who notice these moves early have a decisive advantage. The unfolding debt drama debt. It is everywhere, invisible to the casual observer, yet shaping every corner of the global economy. For decades, governments, corporations, and households have borrowed beyond reason. And now, in 2026, that debt is no longer a warning, it is a mechanism. The numbers are staggering. Global debt has surpassed $350 trillion, more than 400% of global GDP. Major economies carry debt to GDP ratios at levels historically associated with collapse. Consumer, corporate, and government liabilities intertwine in a web too complex for most to comprehend. Yet the world behaves as if everything is normal. This is the calm before a critical inflection point. Segment 1, debt ceilings, theater for the public. Debt ceilings exist, but they are largely artificial constructs. Politicians debate them, media reports them, and the public believes they are limits on borrowing. The truth, debt ceilings are performance theater. They serve multiple purposes: create controlled drama to justify policy changes, legitimize new monetary expansions without public outrage, delay accountability, giving elites more time to orchestrate structural shifts. Every announcement about hitting the ceiling is carefully timed to maintain confidence, while the real debt continues to grow quietly in off-book systems. Segment 2, debt to GDP, the point of no return. Debt to GDP ratios are more than just statistics. When debt grows faster than the productive capacity of the economy, three outcomes are historically possible. Default, the nation cannot honor its obligations. Hyperinflation, currency is devalued to erase debt. Systemic reset, money is redefined, assets repriced, and the financial structure overhauled. Most governments will avoid outright default. Hyperinflation destroys trust. That leaves controlled resets as the most probable path. And in these scenarios, precious metals like silver historically outperform fiat, acting as both a store of value and a hedge. Segment 3, the return of the debt jubilee. A debt jubilee is not science fiction. It's history. Ancient civilizations erased debt through currency reform, asset revaluation, monetary resets. The goal, restore balance without societal collapse. In modern terms, a debt jubilee could take the form of strategic default on specific obligations, revaluation of major currencies, debt restructuring tied to tangible assets. In all cases, those who hold real physical assets, especially silver, gain protection. Segment 4, hidden fragility in major economies. Let's examine some hard numbers. United States, debt to GDP ratio over 130%, unfunded liabilities in the trillions. Japan, national debt exceeds 260% of GDP, yet government bonds remain safe. Eurozone, sovereign debts interlinked with ECB policies, creating systemic dependency. These economies are interconnected. When one cracks, the dominoes fall, and yet markets don't panic, because the elite are managing the fall quietly. Segment 5, debt is a tool, not a problem. Here's the subtlety most miss. Debt itself is not the enemy, it is the tool. Debt allows the elite to guide financial behavior without obvious force, control currency flows and liquidity, position strategic assets for the coming reset. By maintaining debt just short of crisis, they engineer the illusion of stability while preparing the system for controlled transformation. Segment 6, how this connects to silver. Silver is uniquely positioned in this environment. It's scarce, tangible, and widely recognized. It has dual value, industrial demand, and monetary utility. In historical resets, silver often spikes dramatically before fiat systems adjust. When debt is reset, through revaluation, restructuring, or jubilee, silver absorbs the shock and preserves wealth for those who anticipate the shift. This is why, in 2026, silver is not just a commodity. It is a strategic anchor in a sea of uncertainty. Debt is no longer a warning. It is the mechanism of change. Ceilings, ratios, and obligations are carefully orchestrated signals. The next phase is inevitable. Currencies will fluctuate, trust will erode, and assets tied to reality will gain prominence. Currency, fluctuations. Signals for silver currencies rarely collapse overnight. Instead, they leak value slowly, almost imperceptibly. Small shifts, slight devaluations, subtle volatility. And yet, those small movements are messages. Messages the public often ignores, messages only the observant can decode. Because in the coming 2026 reset, currencies will act as early warning systems. And silver listens. Segment 1, competitive devaluation, is back. Governments don't always want strong currencies. A weaker currency can boost exports, reduce debt burdens, maintain social stability. So they devalue strategically, silently. This is not chaos, this is orchestration. Notice the patterns. Dollar slowly weakens against other fiat currencies. Emerging market currencies fluctuate sharply. Trade balances subtly realign. These are deliberate moves, not accidents, and they signal the elite's hand behind the monetary curtain. Segment 2, the silent precious metal signal. History shows us a critical point. Currency volatility precedes precious metal surges. When trust in money wavers, real assets gain value. Gold responds slowly, often acting as a long-term hedge. Silver responds faster, bridging industrial demand and monetary value. Silver occupies a unique intersection. Industrial use ensures ongoing demand. Monetary perception ensures value. Retention. Scarcity ensures it cannot be manipulated like fiat. This duality makes silver the perfect signal for upcoming resets. Segment 3, mechanics of currency devaluation. Devaluation is rarely obvious. It happens in subtle ways. Inflation targeting, publicly controlled, but real purchasing power erodes quietly. Interest rate. Adjustments, slightly negative real rates reduce currency appeal. Quantitative measures, hidden liquidity injections increase money supply, diluting value. Foreign exchange management, central banks subtly shift reserves, influencing currency pairings. To the untrained eye, nothing seems wrong. But those watching closely, tracking flows, trade balances, and industrial metal positioning, see the early cracks forming. Segment 4, suppression before the surge. Every major silver bull market begins with a phase of suppression. Prices appear stagnant. Analysts dismiss silver as irrelevant, media ridicules its importance. But beneath the surface, accumulation is happening quietly, often by institutions aware of systemic shifts. The suppression phase is critical. It allows insiders to position themselves before the surge, before markets recognize real value. And when currencies begin to fracture visibly, silver acts as a shock absorber, capturing wealth and preserving purchasing power. Segment 5, currency fluctuations as predictive signals. Not all currency moves are random. Some are predictive signals for future monetary events. A sharp drop in a reserve currency often precedes revaluation of metals. Emerging market instability can indicate systemic risk. Coordinated central bank interventions reveal preparation for controlled transitions. By monitoring these signals carefully, you can anticipate where value will flow next and why silver is at the center. Segment 6, why silver is watching currency shifts. Silver's unique role in this environment is clear. Industrial necessity, electronics, solar energy, defense tech, monetary history, centuries of use as store of value. Scarcity, physical limitation, prevents reckless printing. When currencies fluctuate, the market is signaling a shift in the real store of value. Silver does not just react, it anticipates, quietly absorbing value before fiat currencies fully recognize the crisis. This makes it the elite's silent tool to anchor wealth in uncertain times. Currencies are whispering warnings, not loudly, not with headlines, not in financial news, but silver is listening. Silver's pivotal role in the new architecture. Through months of signals, Central bank moves, debt accumulation, currency fluctuations. One truth becomes undeniable. Silver sits at the epicenter of the 2026 monetary reset. Not gold, not digital currencies, not speculative tech assets. Silver. Its dual nature, industrial necessity and monetary anchor, makes it uniquely positioned to absorb systemic shock and preserve real value. And understanding its role now could define financial outcomes for years to come. Segment 1, Why Silver Matters More Than Ever. Silver occupies a rare intersection in today's financial system. Industrial backbone, electronics, solar energy, defense systems, medical devices, all depend on silver. Demand is structurally secure. Monetary history. Unlike most industrial metals, silver has been used as money for centuries, giving it psychological and historical legitimacy. Physical scarcity. Silver cannot be printed at will. Unlike fiat, its supply is inherently constrained, making it a reliable hedge in a weakening currency environment. Combine these factors, and you have an asset that acts as a stabilizer in both industrial and monetary systems. Segment 2, Forecasting Silver's Price Trajectory. Historical patterns are instructive. During past monetary resets, silver typically gaps sharply in value once fiat trust falters. Suppression phases, where prices are kept artificially low, precede explosive upward movement. Once the public realizes that currencies are unstable, silver moves from unnoticed industrial metal to a recognized store of value. Predicting the next move requires understanding the elite's intentions, the timing of currency stress, and industrial demand. In other words, silver's trajectory is not random. It is engineered by the intersection of demand, scarcity, and monetary necessity. Segment 3, Positioning for the 2026 Reset. For those paying attention, positioning is key. Physical silver. Coins, bars, and allocated storage provide direct exposure. Strategic timing. The best accumulation window is during suppression phases, before widespread public recognition. Diversification. Silver should be paired with other real assets, gold, commodities, resources, to stabilize portfolios in volatile environments. This is not speculation. It is alignment with systemic realities. Segment 4. Industrial and strategic demand amplifies value. Unlike gold, silver has active utility in modern economies. Semiconductors and EVs rely on silver conductivity. Solar panels require silver to function efficiently. Defense and medical technologies depend on silver's reliability. This creates a built-in floor for value, independent of market speculation. Even if fiat collapses partially, silver's industrial demand anchors its worth. Segment 5, the elite's blueprint in silver, is quietly woven into the elite S2026 blueprint. It serves as a monetary stabilizer during controlled resets. It functions as a real asset hedge against debt restructuring and currency volatility. It provides a lever of influence, allowing institutions that accumulate silver early to maintain strategic advantage. Essentially, silver is not an afterthought. It is a critical piece of the monetary architecture being designed in 2026. Segment 6, Actionable Insights. To benefit from this unfolding shift, observe systemic signals, track interest rate shifts, QE, QT measures, and currency devaluation signs. Acquire strategically, focus on physical silver during suppression phases, avoid reactive buying during surges. Understand scarcity and demand. Industrial and monetary pressures will amplify silver AS value in ways fiat cannot. Align with long-term horizon. This is not a short-term trade, it's positioning for a structural monetary transformation. Those who prepare quietly and thoughtfully will have a decisive advantage when markets finally acknowledge the shift. 2026 is not just another year in finance. It is the year the blueprint unfolds, a recalibration of money, debt, and value. Currencies are whispering, debt is orchestrated, central banks are moving silently, and silver waits quietly at the intersection of history, industrial demand, and monetary necessity. By the time the world notices, it will be too late to reposition. The choice is simple: understand, prepare, align. Because in a system engineered to shift invisibly, silver may be the only anchor that preserves real value. The blueprint is in motion. Are you ready?